Deep in the boreal forest, a dark and terrifying expanse in Russia, steeped in legends of vampires and other malevolent spirits, four friends embarked on an adventurous journey in their RV. Eager for excitement and the thrill of exploration, they ventured into the heart of this forbidding wilderness, where the trees stood tall and dense, casting eerie shadows in the fading light of day. The friends, William, Mia, Ethan, and Lisa, were seasoned travelers, having explored many remote and wild places together. They were well prepared for their journey, with plenty of supplies and a sense of camaraderie that had seen them through many adventures. Little did they know that this trip would test their courage and resilience like never before. Their journey began on a bright and sunny day, the RV rumbling along the rugged road that cut through the forest like a winding serpent. They marveled at the beauty of their surroundings, the towering trees and the abundant wildlife that called this place home. But as the day wore on and the shadows lengthened, they realized that they were far from any known civilization, deep in the heart of the boreal forest. As night fell, they decided to make camp by the side of the road, the RV casting a warm and inviting glow in the darkness. They gathered around a crackling fire, sharing stories and laughter as they enjoyed a meal cooked over an open flame. But their merriment was short-lived, as the forest around them seemed to come alive with strange noises and eerie shadows. They retired to the safety of the RV, locking the doors and windows as they settled in for the night. But sleep eluded them, as the sounds of the forest grew louder and more menacing. They heard strange cries and whispers, and the feeling of being watched crept over them like a cold hand. As dawn broke, they ventured outside to assess their situation, only to discover that they were no longer on the road where they had made camp. Somehow, during the night, the RV had been turned around, and they were now facing deeper into the forest, away from the direction they had been traveling. Panic set in as they realized that they were lost, with no idea of which way to go to find their way back to civilization. They tried to retrace their steps, but the forest seemed to shift and change around them, leading them in circles and confounding their efforts to find their way. As the days passed, their supplies dwindled, and their hope began to fade. They heard strange noises at night, the sound of something moving in the darkness just beyond the reach of their campfire. They felt the presence of something malevolent, something that seemed to feed on their fear and despair. But just when they thought all hope was lost, they were rescued by a group of explorers who happened upon their camp. The rescuers gave them shelter and care, helping them to recover from their ordeal. As they recuperated, they shared their harrowing story with the other explorers, warning them of the dangers that lurked in the depths of the boreal forest. To this day, William, Mia, Ethan, and Lisa are grateful for their rescue, but they will never forget the terror they experienced in the heart of the boreal forest. Their story serves as a warning to all who dare to venture into the unknown, a reminder that in the wild places of the world, danger lurks just beyond the edge of the firelight.
Enjoying the content? Subscribe now for more. My family had an old RV that we used to take on fishing trips, but every now and then we used it to explore new places, go hiking, and get out in nature. One summer, my cousin William and I decided to take our RV to Yosemite in Northern California for a few days. Yosemite was breathtaking. Towering trees, rugged mountains, crystal clear lakes. It was like stepping into a postcard. We found a nice spot to park the RV near a secluded cabin and settled in for a few days of exploring. On our second night there, while sitting around a campfire, we noticed an old woman watching us from the edge of the woods. She looked frail and exhausted, with wild, daring eyes that seemed to be studying us intently. It was a bit unnerving, but we dismissed it as just another local weirdo. The next day, as we were walking through the forest, we came across the old woman again. She looked sad and told us that her daughters, Sarah and Hannah, had disappeared in the woods a few days ago. She begged us to help her find them, and despite our better judgment, we agreed. Over the next few days, we searched the forest tirelessly, following the old woman's directions. But the more we looked, the more we began to suspect that something wasn't right. The old woman's behavior was strange, and there were times when she seemed to be leading us in a circle. Then, on the third day of our search, we found a clearing in the woods that we had never seen before. There, Sarah and Anna were sitting in the middle of the clearing. They were dirty and disheveled, but unharmed. They told us that they had lost their way in the forest and had been wandering for days, unable to return. We were thrilled to have found them, but our joy was short-lived. As we were returning to the cabin, the police stopped us. They told us that they had been searching for Sarah and Hannah for several days, and that they had found evidence that the old woman had been hiding them in the woods. The police immediately arrested the old woman, and that we had to leave the area immediately. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that something sinister was happening in those woods. The mystery of Sarah and Hannah's disappearance haunts me, and I often find myself wondering what really happened to them during those fateful days in Yosemite. This story actually happened when smartphones didn't exist, and my goal in telling it is not to scare you. One day, my friend John and I were on a trip to the Darien Forest in our RV. The Darien Forest is located in the southeastern United States and is considered one of the most dangerous forests in the world due to its poisonous snakes and rugged terrain. We were both excited for the adventure ahead, eager to explore the untamed wilderness. As we drove deeper into the forest, the trees seemed to close in around us, creating a sense of isolation. The road was narrow and winding, and we were the only ones around for miles. Suddenly, we saw a person dressed in black crossing the forest road ahead of us. I tried to brake, but the RV skidded on the gravel and crashed into a tree. Shaken but unharmed, we got out to look for the person we had seen. We searched the area thoroughly, but there was no sign of anyone. We decided to try and fix the RV ourselves, but it soon became clear that the damage was beyond our capabilities. We were stranded in the middle of the forest with no way to call for help. As night fell, we built a campfire and tried to make the best of our situation. We were both on edge, our imaginations running wild in the darkness. Suddenly, John nudged me and pointed towards the hillside. There, standing at the top of the hill, was the man in the black uniform. He was tall and imposing, his features obscured by the shadows. It was strange how he had managed to reach the hilltop so quickly and then suddenly disappear. We were both overcome with a sense of unease, unsure of what to do next. That's when we heard it, a rustling in the bushes behind us. We turned to see a large snake slithering towards us, its eyes fixed on John. Before we could react, the snake struck, sinking its fangs into John's leg. He screamed in pain as I tried to pull the snake off him. Desperate to save my friend, I shouted for help. Luckily, there were fishermen in the area who heard our cries and came running to our aid. They managed to kill the snake and rushed John to the nearest hospital. It took some time, but John eventually recovered from the snake bite. However, the mystery of the strange man in the forest was never explained. To this day, I still wonder about the encounter and what could have happened if we hadn't been rescued. So, have you ever traveled to the Darien Forest? It's a place full of mystery and danger, where anything can happen when you least expect it.
It was the summer of 1994 when my family and I, the Perrons, decided to move to a farm in Harrisville, Rhode Island. It was a big change for us, leaving behind the city life for the peaceful countryside. We packed our belongings in our trusty RV and set off on what was supposed to be a new beginning for us. The trip was long, and we arrived at the farm late at night. It was around 3:07 a.m. when we finally pulled into the driveway. The first thing we noticed was our dog, barking furiously and refusing to go inside the house. It was strange, as he had never acted like this before. We brushed it off as him just being nervous about the new surroundings. As we settled in, strange things started happening. My mother, Caroline, woke up one morning with big bruises on her arms, as if someone or something had grabbed her forcefully. She couldn't explain how she got them, and it left us all feeling uneasy. One night, my sister Christine and I were exploring the woods near our farm when we heard strange noises. It sounded like someone whispering, but when we looked around, there was no one there. We quickly made our way back home, feeling as if we were being watched the entire time. Things took a turn for the worse when we found our dog dead one morning. It was a great shock to all of us, as he had been a part of our family for so long. The neighbor, who had come to console us, told us that there had been a suicide on the farm long before we had moved in. We never knew the cause of our dog's death, but it only added to the eerie atmosphere of the place. In the end, we couldn't take it anymore. We gathered our belongings and left, never looking back. The secret of the farm remained hidden, and to this day, no one knows what really happened during our time there. The experience changed us all, and it's something we'll never forget. So, if you ever find yourself driving through Harrisville, Rhode Island, and you come across a farm with a dark history, just remember the story of the Perrins and think twice before staying there. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.